All right, I hate intros, so let's get right to it. The US made a mistake. They overestimated jobs by 800,000. Let's see. The second largest diamond was found in Botswana. Last, home buyers are backing out of contracts at a record rate. We're going to get into these stories. I give you my perspective. Let's get to it. All right, welcome back. Had to grab my hat real quick. We're going to check out this clip. This is a clip from CNBC. Let's take a look at the video.
Let's bring in Steve Leisman on the phone from Jackson Hole with some reaction to those job revisions. Steve, market initially took it as fairly dovish. Historically, though, it is a pretty good big revision, right?
Yeah, you got to go back to 2009 to find a bigger downward revision here. It looked like in 09 they went down by what's the number here? Minus 824. So that's slightly smaller than that. That, of course, was a time when the economy was in free fall. It's not, when you parse it out over the 12-month period. Again, this is the 12 months ending in March 2024. So it's a little unclear what it means, how relevant it is for today's jobs numbers. But
now keep in mind, back in 2008, 2009, that was the last particular crash that we had. It was a pretty big one. If you're a little older in age, millennial end of the spectrum, you remember 2008. Whether you were in the workforce, just starting the workforce, it was very visible as to there being something going wrong. Let's jump back into the video.
It comes up to 68,000. So essentially what we were doing, instead of doing 250 average, we were doing, say, 185 to 200,000 in that zone. It depends a little bit, Carl. They'll parse it out over the months in February. This is the total for the year ending March 2024. Jobless claims have been running relatively low. Remember, this is a process by which they true up the payroll report to the actual jobless claims numbers, or the jobless unemployment benefits that are being paid. There is a question, Carl, that's interesting from a Goldman Sachs report about how they're counting immigrants here and unauthorized immigrants and whether they should or should not be counted in the payroll. So Goldman Sachs takes a much more benign view of this revision.
Now, notice that you said about the last part in terms of there being some sort of controversy around how certain reporting is done around migrants and immigrants and how they're being counted into the numbers. I did a video on that. One of my first videos was talking about that. So you can go and check that video out. Now, my background is in banking. I've been in pretty much almost all aspects of banking, whether it been the retail side, sales. I've been in business banking and in corporate banking and kind of behind the veil and kind of seeing the behaviors of customers from different ends and sitting right in front of them, whether it be consumers, whether it be businesses, public companies, and then being behind the veil and kind of getting an idea of how senior and executive leadership moves within banking, depending on customer behavior and being behind deposits and kind of being able to see the data. So, and it's not uncommon for there to be revisions, as we just heard. But in terms of this amount, we can speculate as to why and what the reasoning is, the timing in which this information was released. We're in a big political climate right now in terms of where we are within the government. We're going to be voting soon, and we're going to be choosing new leadership for the country. So whether it relates to that or not, we don't want to deep dive into that. But it is a big deal to see this type of adjustment. And it basically states in layman's terms that the economy is not doing as well as our media or our leaders, for that sake, is telling us. And being in banking, again, I see it. I see how banks are being affected in terms of the deposit growth and the deposit funds, and I can see customer behaviors and the numbers and the data when I dig into it. So it's going to be an interesting time. All right, fellas, how'd your wife? The second largest diamond was found in Botswana. Shout out to them. Let's check out the story.
A rough 2,492 carat stone has been unearthed in Botswana at a mine owned by the Canadian firm Lucara Diamond. It's the biggest find since the 3,000 carat Cullinan diamond was found in South Africa in 1905 and cut into 9 separate stones. Botswana's government said it was the largest diamond ever discovered in the southern African state.
Now, shout out to Botswana. And if we remember, we just had the Olympics in Paris, and I think Botswana won the 200. He beat our Noah Lyles, man. I'm still hurt by that one. I'm not even gonna front. But shout out to Botswana. They just found the second largest diamond. Diamonds are a sensitive one. If you are familiar with the whole De Beers debacle, I think it's been proven true in terms of how they manipulated the diamond market, man. If you haven't looked into that, look into it. It's pretty depressing, especially for you who's out there maybe buying diamonds, whether you're getting married or about to propose, man. Diamonds, the long story short, they aren't that rare. They're not as rare as they made to be, but it just shows the power of marketing, the power of money and so forth, and how it drives our thinking and the actions of our potential consumers. But that's besides the point. So shout out to them. Shout out to, I think it was Tobago, the guy who won the 200 against us, man. But we'll be back in 2028. I thought that'd be an interesting story. So if you ever on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or any other crazy show like that, and they bring it up, a 3,000 carat diamond was found. That's crazy. Now, last but not least, we got 59,000 contracts have been canceled as of July. This is home buyers are backing out or canceling contracts, and it's a record rate, at least according to Redfin, since they've been tracking it since 2017. Let's get the article up and we'll kind of go through it. Now, they've been tracking this particular data since 2017, and right now we've seen the largest canceling of contracts. What does this mean? I mean, when you go in and you buy a contract, or when you go in and you write a contract and make an offer on a house, you write up a contract. So let's go back to the basics of it and what I feel this is derived of. Now, from my experience, and again, I've been in banking and I've seen, this particular action or transaction happen many times. So when you go and you make an offer on a house, the bank gives you, prior to doing that, the bank gives you a pre-approval letter. So what happens is you go to your realtor, the realtor wants to see a pre-approval letter. This pre-approval letter is very, very basic, right? You just basically got to prove that you have a good credit score, because a lot of times a good one, they check the credit score. So they check your credit score. They, based on your credit score, they'll come up with a debt to income ratio, and they'll kind of throw out a number in terms of what they feel. They'll throw out a number in terms of what they feel you can get approved for a mortgage. So it's nothing official about it. So what's happening probably, in my opinion, with these canceling of the contracts is that obviously with interest rates are where they are, people are going to their banks and they're getting one particular number, but when they get out in the market and they make an offer on a house, they're canceling the contract for one particular reason, in my particular opinion, is that they underestimated the expenses in terms of what the house would be if they followed through on the purchase for whatever reason. So sellers are in a position where there's a lot of people that do want to sell their house. I know we got a property in Florida, and we went down there a few months ago, actually. And my wife was talking to one of our neighbors, and they want to move. They're an older couple, and they're ready to move and kind of downsize a little bit, but they don't want to sell the house because they don't know what they're going to do. What rates are, unless you're a cash buyer out there, or even if you are a cash buyer, you're buying at a peak in the market. So it's a very tricky time for a lot of people. And then if you're a buyer, what you could afford 2 years ago is way different from what you could afford today because of the rates. So let's just say you got approved for, $500,000 house 2 years ago. Because of the interest rates and where they are today, you may only be approved for a $350,000 house. And try to tell someone who's been looking at $500,000 houses to now only look at $350,000 houses. You are looking to purchase a home in this particular economy. In my opinion, if you own a business or you're looking to buy a home, sit still. We're in a very tricky time in the economy. We just talked earlier in the video about the adjustment to the jobs report. There's a lot of funny things happening within the economy, and I don't think everything is what we think it is, and we need to sit still for a little bit. It feels a little 2008ish, just from what I went through back then and how I remember the economy used to be. So I would sit still. If you're in a business or you're working a business, get as lean as possible within your business. Continue to run it, continue to push, continue to market, continue to squeeze every piece of revenue, but lower expenses. Immediately start lowering expenses, because I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Hey, listen, I appreciate you guys for watching this video. We're going to try to jump back in with some new news coming up. So turn on your notifications, click subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace. I'm out.